Have you ever walked into a room and felt the air shift? Thick, charged, almost electric, and known, without a single word being spoken, that someone's thoughts about you were anything but innocent? Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, that invisible web connecting all human minds. But what he discovered goes far deeper than most people realize. Jung spent decades studying the subtle signals, the psychological breadcrumbs, the energetic signatures that betray when someone's sexual thoughts are focused on you. And here's what the establishment doesn't want you to know. You already possess the ability to read these signs with startling accuracy. Your body knows. Your unconscious knows. The question is, are you paying attention? Because once you understand Jung's framework, you'll never walk through the world the same way again. You'll recognize the patterns, decode the glances, and understand the invisible pull that happens when sexual energy is directed your way. This isn't mysticism. This isn't pseudoscience. This is depth psychology at its most practical and most powerful. So let's pull back the curtain on what Jung really taught about sexual projection, the shadow self, and the unmistakable markers that someone's inner world is consumed with thoughts of you. Carl Jung revolutionized our understanding of human sexuality by refusing to reduce it to mere biology. For Jung, sexual energy, what he termed libido in its broadest sense, was fundamentally psychic energy, the driving force behind creativity, connection, and transformation. When someone thinks about you sexually, they're not just experiencing a fleeting physical attraction. They're engaging in what Jung called active imagination, directing powerful psychological energy toward your image, your presence, your essence. This creates a tangible field effect, a disturbance in the relational space between two people that manifests in observable behaviors and subtle environmental cues. Jung observed that sexual thoughts carry a particular intensity because they emerge from the shadow, that repository of repressed desires and unacknowledged impulses. When sexual interest is present but unspoken, it doesn't simply vanish into the ether. Instead, it leaks out through body language, speech patterns, and what Jung termed synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that reveal the hidden architecture of desire. The person thinking about you sexually is unconsciously broadcasting their interest through dozens of microsignals, and your own unconscious is exquisitely tuned to receive them. This isn't magical thinking, it's evolutionary psychology meeting depth psychology. Our ancestors survived by reading subtle social and sexual cues, and that capacity hasn't disappeared. It's simply been buried under layers of rationalization and social conditioning. The eyes, Jung noted, are windows to the soul precisely because they're the hardest features to control consciously. When someone harbors sexual thoughts about you, their gaze pattern changes in distinctive ways. First, you'll notice prolonged eye contact that extends just beyond the threshold of social comfort. Where a neutral glance might last 1 to 2 seconds, sexually interested eye contact lingers for 3, 4, even 5 seconds, creating a palpable tension that both parties feel. The person may not even realize they're doing it. Their unconscious is attempting to establish intimacy, to bridge the gap between inner fantasy and external reality. But here's the crucial detail Jung emphasized. It's not just duration, but quality. Sexual interest produces what researchers now call pupil dilation, an involuntary response to arousal that Jung understood intuitively. When you catch someone's eyes in that extended moment, notice if their pupils appear larger, darker, more receptive. This physiological response bypasses conscious control entirely. Additionally, watch for the pattern of looking away and looking back. Someone consumed with sexual thoughts will repeatedly return their gaze to you, almost compulsively, as if drawn by an invisible thread. They might glance away when caught, displaying momentary embarrassment or shyness, but the eyes always circle back. Jung called this the return of the repressed. What the conscious mind tries to hide, the body insists on revealing. And finally, observe where the gaze travels. Sexual interest creates what's known as the triangulation pattern. Eyes, lips, body, then back to eyes. This unconscious scanning is the psyche's way of taking inventory, of imagining possibility, of rehearsing connection. Jung was fascinated by what he termed the psychoid realm, the boundary zone where psyche and matter interact. Nowhere is this more evident than in spatial dynamics. When someone thinks about you sexually, they unconsciously seek to minimize physical distance, to enter what anthropologists call intimate space, that bubble extending roughly 18 inches from your body. Pay attention to how often this person finds reasons to be near you, to lean in during conversation, to position themselves within arm's reach. This isn't mere friendliness. It's the unconscious attempting to close the gap between desire and fulfillment. What makes this particularly telling is the context violation. In situations where proximity isn't required, the sexually interested person manufactures it. They'll choose the seat next to you when others are available, stand closer than necessary in open spaces, or create opportunities for accidental touch, the brush of a hand, the brief contact of shoulders, the fleeting moment when bodies align. Jung understood that these touches carry what he called numinous energy, a charge that transcends the physical moment and registers deep in the psyche. Notice also the orientation of their body. Sexual interest produces what's called frontal alignment, where the person's torso, hips, and feet point directly toward you, even when they're ostensibly engaged elsewhere. The body, governed by the unconscious, reveals what words conceal. And crucially, watch how they respond when you move. If they unconsciously mirror your movements, maintaining that close proximity, the pattern speaks for itself. The psyche seeks union, and the body follows. Jung paid meticulous attention to what he called the musicality of the psyche, the way emotional and sexual energy alters vocal expression. When someone harbors sexual thoughts about you, their voice undergoes subtle but measurable transformations. Men's voices typically drop in pitch, becoming deeper and more resonant, an unconscious display of masculinity and genetic fitness. Women's voices may become slightly higher and breathier, an equally unconscious signal of receptivity and youth. Both represent the shadow self speaking through the medium of sound, bypassing the conscious mind's defenses. But pitch is only the beginning. Listen for what linguists call prosody, the rhythm, stress, and intonation of speech. Someone sexually interested in you will often slow their speech when addressing you directly, creating space for intimacy, for connection, for the possibility of something more. They may emphasize certain words, particularly your name, investing it with extra attention and warmth. Jung observed that names carry archetypal power, and when spoken by someone whose sexual energy is directed toward you, your name becomes a kind of invocation, a verbal caress. Notice also the content of their speech. Sexual interest produces what psychologists call self-disclosure escalation. The person shares more personal information, more vulnerable details, more intimate thoughts than the context strictly requires. This is the unconscious seeking reciprocity, testing whether the connection can deepen, and pay attention to nervousness markers, increased fillers like and slight stammering, or conversely rapid-fire speech when excited. The shadow, when aroused, disturbs the smooth surface of ordinary interaction. One of Jung's most profound insights was the concept of participation mystique, a kind of unconscious identity, where boundaries between self and other temporarily dissolve. In the context of sexual attraction, this manifests as behavioral mirroring. When someone thinks about you sexually, they unconsciously begin to imitate your gestures, posture, and movements. This isn't deliberate mimicry. It's the psyche's attempt to create harmony, to signal similarity, to build the foundation for deeper connection. Watch whether they adopt your body language within seconds or minutes of you changing position. If you cross your legs, do they follow? If you lean back, do they mirror the movement? This synchronization operates below the threshold of awareness, governed by what neuroscientists now call mirror neurons, but what Jung intuited as the collective unconscious at work. The mirroring extends beyond mere posture. Notice if they adopt your speech patterns, picking up your phrases, your verbal rhythms, even your laugh. Sexual interest creates what Jung called psychic contagion, where the boundaries of individual identity become permeable. This is the unconscious signaling. We are alike. We belong together. We could merge. Also observe drinking or eating synchronization. If you take a sip of water, does the other person do the same moments later? These micro-choreographies reveal that their attention is locked on you, that their unconscious is tracking your every move with the intensity that only sexual interest produces. Jung believed that such synchronization points toward what he termed the conjunctio, the alchemical union of opposites, the deep human hunger for wholeness through connection with another. When these patterns emerge, the unconscious is speaking loud and clear. Jung's most controversial but powerful insight was synchronicity, the meaningful coincidence that reveals the hidden order underlying reality. When someone thinks about you sexually with sufficient intensity and frequency, Jung believed the psychic energy could create field effects that manifest as improbable coincidences. You might find yourself thinking of the person moments before they text or call. You might run into them in unlikely locations with statistically improbable frequency. These aren't mere chance occurrences. They're markers of what Jung called constellation, where psychic energy organizes external events to reflect internal states. The person's intense focus on you creates a kind of gravitational pull in the fabric of everyday reality. Pay particular attention to your own dreams during this period. Jung insisted that dreams are the royal road to the unconscious, and when someone's sexual energy is directed toward you, your unconscious often registers it before your conscious mind does. You may dream of the person in explicitly sexual scenarios, or, more commonly, in symbolic forms, journeys together, dancing, entering buildings or rooms, water imagery, fire, animals in pairs. These archetypal symbols represent your unconscious processing the energetic information it's receiving. Conversely, if the person shares dreams involving you, even in metaphorical or disguised form, this is the shadow speaking directly, unable to contain itself within waking propriety. Jung taught that the psyche doesn't lie, even when the ego does. Dreams bypass defenses and reveal authentic desire. Finally, notice whether cultural or environmental symbols seem to repeat themselves in both your lives, hearing the same song, reading the same book, encountering the same images or themes. The collective unconscious, Jung argued, speaks through such patterns, weaving individual psyches together in the service of connection and transformation. The body, Jung observed, is the unconscious made visible. When sexual thoughts occupy someone's inner world, the resulting tension manifests as nervous energy and self-soothing gestures. Watch for what psychologists call preening behaviors. The person adjusts their hair, straightens their clothing, checks their appearance when you're nearby. These unconscious grooming rituals serve a dual purpose. First, they discharge nervous energy generated by sexual tension. Second, they represent an instinctive attempt to appear more attractive, to align outer appearance with inner desire. Men might adjust ties, smooth shirts, or run fingers through hair. Women might touch their neck, play with jewelry, or subtly adjust their posture to enhance their silhouette. All of this happens without conscious direction, driven by the shadow's hunger for recognition and reciprocation. Notice also fidgeting and object manipulation. The sexually interested person might repeatedly touch their phone, spin a pen, anything to channel the restless energy their thoughts about you generate. Jung understood this as libido-seeking expression, blocked from its true object and forced to find substitute outlets. Blushing is another powerful tell. When you catch someone thinking about you sexually and they flush, face reddening, perhaps spreading to neck and chest, this is the autonomic nervous system responding to the collision between unconscious desire and conscious exposure. The blood rushes to the surface, quite literally bringing the hidden to light. And watch for what Jung termed displacement activities. Suddenly becoming very interested in something nearby, excessive focus on a trivial task, or abrupt topic changes when the conversation edges toward anything intimate. These are defense mechanisms, the ego's attempt to manage the flooding of sexual energy that the unconscious refuses to contain. The more pronounced these behaviors, the more intense the interior sexual preoccupation. While Jung didn't live to see social media, his principles apply perfectly to our digital age. When someone thinks about you sexually, their online behavior becomes a projection screen for their unconscious desires. Notice if they consistently engage with your posts, liking, commenting, sharing, often within minutes of you posting, suggesting they're monitoring your presence actively. This digital vigilance mirrors the physical proximity seeking we discussed earlier. The platform simply extends the psychic space. Pay attention to the timing and content of their interactions. Late-night messages or engagement carry different weight than daytime professional exchanges. The cover of darkness lowers inhibitions, allowing the shadow-freer expression. Watch for what psychologists call strategic self-presentation. Does this person suddenly post content that aligns with your interests? That seems designed to catch your attention or demonstrate compatibility. This is the unconscious attempting to build bridges, to create resonance, to say, look, we're alike, we're meant to connect. Notice also if they view your stories or profiles repeatedly, a behavior now trackable on many platforms. This digital surveillance is the modern equivalent of the prolonged gaze, the inability to look away, the compulsive return we discussed in Sign 1. Jung would recognize this as the anima or animus projection, where you've become the carrier of the person's idealized inner opposite, their fantasy of completion. Additionally, observe whether they share content that's subtly suggestive or sexually charged, not explicitly directed at you, but clearly within your view. This is testing, probing, trying to gauge your receptivity without the vulnerability of direct expression. The unconscious, as always, finds a way to speak, even through the carefully curated facade of social media. Jung's final, and perhaps most important teaching is this: trust your own unconscious. You possess an innate ability to sense when sexual energy is directed toward you, a capacity Jung called intuition, one of the 4 primary functions of consciousness. When you're around the person in question, notice your own somatic responses. Does your body react? Heart rate increasing, breath becoming shallower, a flutter in your stomach, warmth spreading across your skin? These aren't random. They're your organism responding to the energetic field the other person is generating. Jung taught that we're far more permeable to each other's psychic states than we consciously realize. Your body may be detecting pheromones, reading micro-expressions, processing hundreds of subtle cues that never reach conscious awareness, but register nonetheless. Pay particular attention to what Jung called the transcendent function, those moments when unconscious and conscious suddenly align and you simply know the truth. You might find yourself suddenly certain, without being able to explain why, that this person harbors sexual thoughts about you. Don't dismiss this knowing as wishful thinking or paranoia. Jung insisted that the psyche has its own intelligence, often superior to the rational mind, particularly in matters of emotion and relationship. Your dreams, your body, your inexplicable sense of being watched or thought about. The key is cultivating what Jung called active imagination, the ability to attend to these subtle signals without either suppressing them through rationalization or inflating them through fantasy. Hold the question lightly. What is my unconscious telling me? What does my body know that my mind hasn't yet acknowledged? When you honor this intuitive capacity, you access the same deep wisdom Jung spent his lifetime studying, the same current of knowing that has guided humans through the complexities of desire and connection since the beginning of consciousness itself. So now you know. You've learned to read the 8 Jungian signatures of sexual interest, from the magnetic pull of the gaze to the whisper of your own intuition. But knowledge without application is merely intellectual entertainment. The real question is, what will you do with this awareness? Will you pretend you don't notice the signals, maintaining a comfortable but ultimately dishonest ignorance? Or will you honor what your unconscious is telling you and respond with courage and authenticity? Here's what I want you to do right now. Think of one person in your life where several of these signs have appeared. Not all 8 necessarily, but enough to create a pattern, a constellation of evidence that their sexual energy is oriented toward you. Hold that person in your mind. Now ask yourself, what does your unconscious want you to do with this information? Not what society expects, not what's safe or convenient, but what feels true at the deepest level of your being. Jung taught that individuation, becoming fully yourself, requires confronting these uncomfortable truths, acknowledging desire both in yourself and others, and choosing conscious response over unconscious reaction. If you found this exploration of Jungian psychology valuable, if it gave you a new framework for understanding the invisible dynamics of attraction and desire, do me a favor. Subscribe to this channel, because we're going deep into practical applications of depth psychology, shadow work, and archetypal awareness that will fundamentally change how you navigate relationships, career, and personal growth. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next video where we'll explore Jung's concept of the anima and animus, the internal masculine and feminine that shape every relationship you'll ever have. And drop a comment below telling me which of these 8 signs you've experienced most frequently. Be honest. Be specific. Creating a community of people committed to psychological truth and self-awareness starts with you being willing to name your experience. Share this video with someone who needs to understand these dynamics, whether they're confused about someone's interest in them or curious about their own unconscious patterns. Jung's work didn't become widely known by accident. It spread because people like you recognized its transformative power and shared it. Remember, the unconscious is always communicating. The only question is whether you're listening. Every prolonged glance, every violation of personal space, every synchronicity and dream symbol, these are the psyche's way of pulling you toward growth, toward connection, toward the fullness of your own becoming. Don't waste this awareness. Use it to build more authentic relationships, to honor your own desires, to stop pretending you don't know what you clearly know. Jung believed that the greatest violence we do to ourselves is living an unlived life, denying the truths our unconscious presents to us daily. You now have the tools to read the sexual subtext flowing beneath ordinary interaction. You understand the language of the shadow, the voice of the body, the wisdom of your own intuitive knowing. The real work begins when you close this video and walk back into your life carrying this lens. See the patterns, trust what you perceive, and have the courage to act on what you know. That's what Jung would want. That's what your own deepest self is calling for. Until next time, stay conscious, stay curious, and remember, you're far more perceptive than you've been taught to believe.